You're listening to the Wordslinger Podcast, episode 104, Better eBook Marketing with Tom Corson-Knowles. This episode of the Wordslinger Podcast is brought to you by the audiobook edition of Quelo Medallion. You can find Quelo Medallion on Audible and use your Audible credit, or get Quelo Medallion for free when you go to audibletrial.com/wordslinger.
It's the Wordslinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented Pants Optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. I think you're going to dig this one. This is the story of a lovely lady, but this is the show that's all about story. There we go. You got it right. And this guy has a remarkable story. I think you've probably encountered him before. If you've spent any time in the ebook marketing game, in the marketing game in general, you've probably come across Tom Corson-Knowles. I could have titled this episode any number of things. I went with the easy pitch because I think that's the thing that's going to appeal to the broadest range of my audience. But there's a lot of wisdom in this episode, so I hope you'll dig that. I normally do a little update just before I do the interviews, and this time's not going to be any different. But I'm shifting some things because I am working on the portable.life. That's the new site that I've built, and it's about the portable lifestyle. It's about the traveling lifestyle, the RV lifestyle, the laptop millionaire lifestyle, whatever floats your portable boat, we'll say. The idea is that site is going to be the hub of all things that get you out of the house, that get you working abroad, traveling abroad, getting out there and meeting new people, experiencing new things. And it's going to be kind of a catalog and chronicle of my experiences doing those exact things. So go check it out. There's only a couple of posts up right now. It's going to be a slow build. I want to do this right, and I want to get on a regular cadence with it. But this show is a part of the portable.life, and and that, by the way, is the domain name, theportable.life. If you go check that out, I think you'll dig it. And I am actually going to take contributors, take contributions, I guess, contributions from content contributors. There are guidelines on the site there, and I think you'll dig that. So go check that out. You can be a part of something cool. Beyond that, the whole RV life, by the way, is trucking along. We're doing pretty good. We're in Pearland, Texas right now. It's just outside Houston. Finally got the internet situation kind of sussed out. For now, I think there's probably going to be hiccups here and there, but what I landed on was using a T-Mobile hotspot, actually a T-Mobile iPad as a hotspot. Believe it or not, it's better to go that route than to use their actual dedicated hotspot because they don't include the unlimited plan on their hotspot for some reason. So I bought an iPad. I've turned on their unlimited plan. I pay $15 extra to make it a hotspot, and there you go. Everything is working just fine. It's been kind of cool. We have hiccups every now and then, but for the most part, it works just fine. So if you're looking for a mobile internet solution, and if you're an RVer, you probably are, because there's really nothing out there tailored for RVers. Definitely try that. I'm probably gonna have to go other routes as well. Maybe a Verizon hotspot. I'm not sure yet. We're gonna tinker. I may get something from AT&T and just kind of have all my bases covered. So anyway, there's that. Everything else is going pretty good in Wordslinger land, so there's nothing to report. No weirdness, no dangers. I will tell you that right now, I am reading a book that I find remarkable. And I would love to get this guy on the show. If anyone happens to know this guy, let me know. But I'm reading the Motivation Manifesto, and that's by Brendan, and I think it's Burchard or Burchard. I'm new to the guy. I've never heard of him before. Sad to say, because clearly he's been around for quite a while. He's a motivational guru. Very excited by what he's saying and what he's doing. And so if you are looking for something to kind of help you get your head on straight, we'll say, and get motivated and get out there and start doing something great in the world like you were designed to do, I highly recommend this book. It is the Motivation Manifesto, Brendan Burchard, or Burchard. I'm going to say Burchard. That just sounds better. Brendan Burchard. If I'm getting it wrong, I apologize. Someone correct me. We'll find out. I've watched several of his videos, but as yet I have not heard anyone say his name out loud. So that's it. And I'd love to get that guy on the show. If anyone knows him, I'm going to be reaching out through various channels to see if I can get to him. But he's one of the, he probably gets 1,000 emails a day, that sort of thing, or 1 million or 1 billion, whatever the current, whatever currently qualifies as the high number of emails, he surely gets it. So anyway, we're going to get right into the interview then. I hope you enjoyed this one. I know I do. I know I did. It was great talking with Tom, and he actually did me a solid, did a guest post for me on the Draft to Digital blog, which was fantastic and very well received. So thanks a lot for that, Tom. And if you haven't seen it yet, go to the Draft to Digital blog. It won't take long to find it. I can try to put a link to it in the show notes, unless it slips my brain, which that sometimes happens. But if you don't see it, you can always email me. And by the way, feel free to do that. If you go to wordslingerpodcast.com, you can click on the contact button and send me an email. You can also send me a voicemail, of course. And you can call me. You can say, you can call 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673, and leave me a voicemail about anything that's on your precious little heart, and I'll be happy to talk to you. I hope you enjoy this interview with Tom Corson-Knowles. Stick around after for a little wrap-up, and I'll see you there. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in, and today my guest is somebody you've probably heard of. If you're in the publishing game at all, if you're an indie publisher in particular, you have heard this name. I'm talking to Tom Corson-Knowles. He's an international best-selling author. He's the first book that I encountered from him actually was the Kindle Publishing Bible, and you've probably read that too. But he's got more than 20 other books floating around out there, and they're all, I think, bestsellers at this point, aren't they, Tom?
Yeah, they have been at one point for sure on Amazon.
That's very impressive. I've only had a couple of books hit bestseller status, and I claim it like it's the only life raft out there. So thanks for being on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you're among other things, you've founded several businesses. You're like a serial entrepreneur, and you've been doing this for a long time, since you were like 13 years old, right?
Yeah, that's when I kind of started my first business, but I wasn't very serious about it. It was kind of like a business I started with my dad out of our garage.
Yeah.
But, I got real serious about business when I was 19 years old because I was in business school, and my classmates, their dream was to go to Wall Street, become investment bankers.
Right.
Make six figures right out of college, work 100 hours a week in a cubicle, and it just seemed like a nightmare to me. I couldn't imagine living life like that in a cubicle, without time to spend, with family and friends and social life and, doing work that actually mattered.
Right.
Which I think is, kind of one of the most important things in life. And so, that's kind of how I really got started in business and why I thought it was so important.
Yeah, that doing things that matter is a driving force in my life. And I always assumed that was something that was part of everyone's sort of DNA, but apparently it's not. I mean, I talked to lots of people. I've coached lots of authors. They really, it sort of comes down to the money for them, which is, to me, always a shortcut to not really being successful. I don't know how you feel about that, though.
Right. I mean, absolutely. I think I totally agree with that. We look at our publishing company, TCK Publishing, and we've published, hundreds and hundreds of books. And honestly, every single client that came to us, Kevin, that said, hey, my goal is $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month or whatever. So, like their first thing out of their mouth was like their financial goal.
Yeah.
Every single one of them quit before they were successful.
Yeah.
Right. They never hit their goal.
Yeah.
And the clients who were focused on, I just want to help people. I want to get my message out there. I want to make a difference. Those are the people who are making thousands and thousands of dollars every single month from royalties.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
And I think the reason is because when you're motivated just by money, you're always looking for the next opportunity to make money. Right. Right. So if Amazon selling physical products on Amazon becomes hot, then you jump from writing books to creating some, cheap physical product made in China and try to get rich in that business, right? And then that doesn't work out and you try some other business, right? Whereas the people who are really successful, the people who say, hey, I'm really committed to this. This is my life's work, my passion. I want to do, really good work at this. I want to make great books. I want to really help people. I want to make a difference. I want to entertain people. And you have this passion and this vision that, you're going to be successful in this because you're going to become the best you can possibly be at your work, right? And that's how you create success, by becoming the best person you can be, right? We all know there's millions of books out there on Amazon, right? There's millions of books out there, and you have to have your book stand out from the crowd. And how do you do that, right? You become an expert.
Right.
And most people just aren't willing to put the time in to become an expert.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember a year or two ago, I had an entire, I don't know, we'll call it a debate with someone about expertise and what it means to be an expert. And it led to a series of blog posts that I actually have thought about and never managed to get around to bundling into a book. But what does being an expert mean to you?
Honestly, for me, it's really simple. It's someone who is constantly learning.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's it. Like if you're constantly learning and you're committed to what you're doing, you're either an expert now or you're on your way to the fast track to becoming an expert really soon.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's really what it's about. It's about mastering the tiny little details.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have to have that passion for what you do to become an expert. Right. Because again, if it's just about the money, if you're writing and publishing books, you're going to take shortcuts. You're going to say, I don't really need to hire this better editor, who maybe they're a little bit more expensive because I can just cut corners here, right? I can just cut corners on my cover design.
Yeah.
I can cut corners. I don't need an email list. That's, other people are doing that, but I don't need that, right? And so what you do when you're not an expert is you try to just take the fastest path, right? You try to do the easiest things. And what the experts do is they say, hey, I just want to learn everything I can and apply everything I can and try everything I can and see what works and kind of prove it, right? And so, when you compare an expert to someone who's not an expert, the experts just tried more stuff and they've had a lot more failure, right? Because they tried a lot more stuff that didn't work.
Right.
And I think that's really what it is. It's not about, how much time you spent. A lot of people think, someone's been in the publishing industry for 20 years, they must be an expert. But I've talked to people in the industry for 20 years who would know nothing about book marketing, right? They could, their book marketing ideas are from 20 years ago and don't work today.
Right.
And so it's not about how much time you've been in the industry, or how much time you've been doing something. It's about how much you've learned and all the experiences that you've had going through that process and how much you've tried and tested. Yeah.
And so what do you say to someone, and I guess I should confess, this is in part me, but I mean, what do you say to someone when they say it's all so exhausting? Like there's just always something. There's always something new. There's always some new approach. There's always some new software, and it all becomes very exhausting. Like, how should someone deal with that?
Well, I mean, there's a couple approaches. So, I mean, the first approach is kind of a mental, psychological standpoint, right? Which is, like mindfulness training, which a lot of people call it meditation, but really it's way beyond that, right? So it's like being present in the moment. It's being aware. It's being aware of your emotions. Right, so if you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed or anxious or angry or whatever, right? Being aware, first of all, that you're having these emotions, you're having these feelings, being aware of your, your mental, emotional state, but also being aware of how you're spending your time, right? So, and how is that affecting your life? So, everyone gets angry and upset and hurt, and right, everyone has all different kinds of emotions and bad emotions and negative emotions, right? We all have that, but the difference is some people can get a bad review for their book and they're so upset that they don't do anything. They don't write anything for months and months. Right. Whereas someone else can say, hey, I got this bad review. Well, that's really horrible. And, 15 minutes later, they're writing their next book. Right. So it's really about being aware of the emotions you're having and then being aware of the activity, your actions and how you're responding to those. So that's kind of that standpoint. So there's a great author called Michael Singer. He's got a book called The Untethered Soul, which is amazing. I highly recommend that if you're interested at all in mindfulness training. He's also got a great free video on YouTube we can post in the show notes on mindfulness training. That's amazing.
Okay.
So that's kind of how you manage that part of that. And then the other aspect of it is that if you're feeling exhausted and overwhelmed and frustrated, is to make sure that you're actually listening to the right people and that you have the right mindset as well when you're trying new things. So what I mean by that is there's a lot of people, like we talk about being expert, right? There's a lot of authors out there, and as authors, like we like to share. So we have blogs and we post on social media, right? But there's a lot of folks out there saying stuff like, you have to have a Twitter account, or you have to do this, or you have to do that.
Right.
And so there's a couple things with that. So first of all, like, yes, there are authors who have made 6 figures or 7 figures using Twitter or using Facebook or using YouTube or Pinterest, right? Really dedicated to one specific platform. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that doesn't fit for everyone, right? And so I think what you have to do is find out what are your strengths.
Okay.
Right. So if you hate Twitter and you can't stand tweeting, then that shouldn't be a core part of your marketing strategy. Right. Because all successful marketing is long-term marketing. Yeah, right. Success in business is about long-term relationships, period. Like nothing else is going to make you successful long-term in business except for long-term relationships. Right. And so if you're not willing to do the long-term marketing activity of, tweeting 10 times a day, every day for the next 5 years, don't bother. Right. Because you're not going to be successful. Because if someone has to wake you up 6 months from now and say, hey, Kevin, you need to get up and tweet about your next book. Right. Because you aren't motivated enough to do it yourself. Yeah. Then that's probably not what you should be relying on to be successful.
Yeah.
Right? And so what you want to do is test out other things and see what works for you, and find what are your core strengths, right? So I found there's kind of 2 types of author marketers. So the ones are speakers and the other ones are writers. So speakers, like I'm a speaker, I love speaking, right? Yeah. So I do lots of podcast interviews and radio, videos, YouTube videos. I've done hundreds and hundreds of YouTube videos. I love it. Like I could speak all day on podcasts like this. It doesn't feel like work for me. Right. And so you want to find that thing where you have that strength, you have that passion that doesn't feel like work for you. And other folks are writers. Like they just love to write all the time. And so they can write blog posts and guest articles. They write for Huffington Post and all these other big online publications. And they get their word out using their writing beyond just writing the book, right? And so that's what I think you kind of have to focus on is like, what are your core strengths? What do you love to do when it comes to marketing? And how can you do that every day and do that more effectively? Right. Yeah. So if you know that you're a speaker and you know that YouTube video is going to be a big part of your marketing strategy, well, then what you really want to do is, go out there, take a course on YouTube marketing, really master that. Right. But it's not for everyone, because if that's not your strength, you shouldn't be doing it. Right. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I just speaking from personal experience, I mean, I've been that guy who chased all the different tactics and the new thing and, just trying to kind of get ahead. It took me a long time to get to the point where I realized I need to focus on the things I'm good at, the strengths that I have. And like you, I'm a talker. So I probably should spend more time trying to get on podcasts and that sort of thing. I do a lot of them, but I should do even more and just cease all the useless stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, a great principle is like the 80-20 principle. And yes, I know a lot of folks have heard of this, right? But like how many of us apply this constantly in our business, right? Right. And so what you can look at is, from a marketing standpoint, let's say you have a blog, okay? And let's say you've got 100 blog posts on your site. And what you can do is you can check your traffic, you can check your analytics and see, okay, what are your top 5 blog posts, right? And then what you can do is you can optimize those. So if you have 5 posts, so like for example, on my site, TCK Publishing articles that get over half of our traffic. Yeah. Right? And that's like thousands and thousands of people every single month. And so rather than trying to write another 100 articles, or rather than trying to take my 95th article and make it even better so it gets more traffic, just take those 5 articles and focus on that. Make those articles better. Yeah. Share them more on social media. And ask other people out there to link to them and post to them and, improve the SEO rankings for them and so forth, right? Yeah. So you can take what you're doing that's already working and focus on that and make that even better, right? Yeah. That's how you get massive results. Like that's how people go from like 0 to 6 figures or 7 figures really fast. Is not because they tried 1,000 different things. Is they tried a bunch of stuff and they found out a couple things that worked, and then just focused all their energy and effort on those things that worked and cranked that up to the next level. Yeah, that's I love it when I hear profound advice that's just plain common sense. Like I should know. I do know that. Take what's working and make it better. That's a common sense idea. But I'm glad you're speaking about it, because well, this is what happens when I get excited. I start stumbling over my words because now I want to just go in this call and go start writing some stuff because now I've got ideas. Exactly. But we'll stick with the call for a while. So that's very cool. Now, how do you discover those strengths? Is it just that you're, what's working for you? You just pay attention to what's working for you. That's what you're saying, right? Yeah. So, it's different from a strength versus, what's working, right? So, for me, I see a strength as more like, what is your aptitude? What do you love to do, right? Whereas what's working is like kind of more objective, just like what happens to be working, right? But I mean, one thing about strengths though, like, for example, videos, like most people don't really know if they like to do video until like their 30th video. Yeah. Right? Because you have all this fear and anxiety around public speaking. I remember I was like so shy around camera, and I got like this, it was like years ago, I got like this flip cam, like $200 camera, but now you can just do it like with any kind of smartphone you have or any kind of laptop, right? And just record. What I did is just recorded one video every day for 30 minutes or for 30 days. And all the videos were like 1 to 5 minutes in length. Right. And that just got me over my fear of being in front of a camera really fast. And I realized like this is something I love to do. Yeah. And so I've been consistent. I haven't been doing one video every single day, but I've been doing consistently probably on average 1 or 2 videos a week for the last several years, right? Yeah. And it's made a huge difference for me. And it's something that, doesn't feel like work. Right. Right. I love to do it, and it's a service for people. And then what you do is once you've got that strength locked in, then you want to find out, okay, how do I maximize my ability to use this strength to reach more people? Okay. Right. And then you find out all the different avenues you can use, right? So like obviously YouTube is the biggest one for video, right. But Facebook video is hot right now too. So you can, you can study how to upload your videos directly to Facebook, so that rather than posting a YouTube video on Facebook, Facebook is going to promote their own videos on their site way more heavily, right? And so it's just discovering these things that work. And so one of the ways you can do that, Kevin, is just, find people who are doing what you want to do, right? Yes. So if you want to master YouTube videos, find people who are on YouTube like doing really well. And so lots of them have video courses and free articles and blogs and stuff, but you can also just email them too. Yeah. But what I would recommend is like study as much as you can online first, and then email and ask like the advanced questions. Because when you email someone, you're like, hey, how do I upload a video to YouTube? They're just gonna be like, dude, you could like type that into Google and find the answer. Yeah, right? Exactly. They're not gonna help you because they see that you haven't helped yourself. Yeah. But if you ask them, what is the best way to optimize my keywords for, this particular video, something like that, like something more advanced, they're much more likely to give you a detailed response that's going to help you get to the next level. Yeah, yeah. And I just to throw it out there, go start a podcast. That's like the best way to start talking to these people. If you can provide them with something in return, like, here's some exposure from my audience. I think that's the primary reason I started podcasting, was to do it that way. Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge benefit of having a show, right? You get to meet all the awesome people in your industry. You get to ask them whatever questions you want, all right? And you get your challenges and your questions answered, which, I love that about my show, too. I mean, it's so much fun. Yeah, yeah. That's very cool, yeah. So let's talk about your show, by the way. What? Give us the breakdown of it. Like, it's mostly video, right? You don't do you have a podcast, right? No, I have a podcast. Yeah, it's called the Publishing Profits Podcast. Okay, yes. And I record everything in video. Okay. So we do everything in video and we post it to YouTube, but we post it first, just like the audio only format for the podcast show. Yeah. And that's at publishingprofitspodcast.com. Okay. And basically, just every week I just interview one person. And almost all the time they're best-selling authors. Yeah. A couple times they're like literary agents or publicists or someone who's like helped authors be really successful. Yeah. And we just talk about like what's working right now in their business, what's working right now in the industry. And it's a lot of fun. Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. Here's a problem I have. I have not checked that podcast out yet. So I'm going to, because now I'm interested. I'm sorry, man. I should have probably looked into that before we talked, but you've got so much going on. I mostly just follow your books. This is quite awesome. It's all good. Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I've learned is that, you find what you love to do and then you just keep doing it. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And so like for me, like the podcast show isn't work, like something I love to do. Like YouTube videos does not work for me. It's something I love to do. Yeah. And another aspect of that is there's always going to be stuff that you don't like to do about what you love to do. Right. So maybe you love speaking on video. Like for me, I love speaking on video, but I can't stand editing videos. Right. I just hate it. I hate editing videos. It's so boring. Right. So you outsource that, I take it? Exactly. Right. So then you find the things that you don't like to do about your business and you outsource that. You find someone who you can train to do that work for you. Right. And what you'll find when you do that is it frees you up to be more creative. Right. 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 Because then you can focus all your energy, all your activity on what you're good at, what you love to do. And there's always going to be busy work in life. I mean, you can't own a house without paying a mortgage and paying electricity and utilities and all that stuff. Right. So that's just part of life. But a lot of the kind of meticulous, busy work, you can outsource that, you can delegate that, you can automate that, and free your time up so you can focus on what's really important for you.
Yeah, and I love that approach. And and I read guys. I mean, Tim Ferriss and guys like that who that's their entire like platform is, do the things you love to do and outsource the rest. So it makes a lot of sense. I'm working on outsourcing. I'm such a control freak about all my stuff that I think it works against me most of the time. How do you overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, I have the same thing, there's a couple things. I mean, first of all, is like you have to kind of disconnect yourself from this idea that things have to be perfect, because they don't.
Right.
Right? Like nothing has to be perfect. There's no perfect book. I found every book I read, I find a typo or some error kind of in there somewhere,
Right.
Even traditionally published ones, right? There's always going to be mistakes in life. And so you have to just realize that, no matter what kind of mistake is made, you can always recover from that.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you die. I mean, that's one mistake you can't come back from, as far as I know.
I don't know.
Right?
Challenge
but
accepted.
I don't think that's going to happen if you just hire someone to, do your video editing or help you with editing your book or help you with cover design or whatever it is, right?
Right.
So it's kind of disconnecting from that. Like, what is the, one question you can ask yourself is like, what is the worst case scenario that can happen here?
Yeah.
The absolute worst thing that could happen here.
Yeah.
Right? And then you can have a plan for in case the worst thing happens. And you'll know, okay, well, this is the worst thing that happened. That's not that big of a deal. I can fix that.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's just kind of getting a different perspective on it, and so that you're not stressed out over that. And the other thing that you have to realize is, if you just keep doing what you're doing, right, you're just going to keep getting the same results.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're not happy with your income, if you're not happy with your book sales, if you're not happy with, your relationships or whatever, you have to make a change in order to improve. And so if you look at everyone who's kind of that next level above you, what are they doing? Right. And I know all the authors that I know who are doing 6 and 7 figures, they have some kind of help. Like they have a personal assistant or a virtual assistant.
Right.
Or they have, a video editor or something, like maybe just a contractor, maybe not a full-time employee. Right.
Right.
But they have people to help them do the work that they're not great at, so they can focus on what they're good at and focus on adding more value.
Yeah.
And that's not just good for you because you're going to make more money and be happier. It's good for the people you're hiring because you're going to be providing jobs for people, and it's better for your audience, your readers, your customers, because you're going to be able to produce more great stuff that they love.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's another way to look at it, is like you're doing everyone in the world a disservice by not upping your game, right? By not being the best you can be, you're hurting everyone else, including yourself.
That's an amazing perspective to have on it, actually. You're absolutely right, because once you start doing that, if your focus really is about helping other people, it is funny how that's going to just sort of light rail you to success, basically, because now you're bringing a whole bunch of people with you, and that tends to make people want to help you more. Like, you get the benefit of their energy and enthusiasm as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's the old cliche, like, teamwork makes the dream work, right? But
yeah.
I mean, it's so true. Like, when you work with other people, you will be more creative.
Yeah.
Right. It's just hands down. I mean, you have to find the right people, obviously. If you work with people who are negative and mean and jerks and so forth, like, it's not going to work out. But, we all have to go through our fair share of people we don't enjoy being with in life, right? And so, when you own your own business, when you're author, you're a publisher, you're doing your own thing, you can find the right people for you,
Right.
And so just to give you an example, our latest assistant I hired, she's doing amazing work, and I had to go through like over 60 candidates before I found her.
Yeah.
So 60 people were not a good fit until I found this one that was a perfect fit, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it took a ton of time, and I did not enjoy that process, right? Because it's just so much work and effort, and right. But now it's paying off.
Yeah.
Right, and it's going to pay off for many, many, many years to come.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the other things that I've noticed about successful people, especially successful authors, is they think long term.
Yeah.
You own the copyright for your work for 75 plus years after you die in the U.S.
Yeah.
Right? That's an enormous amount of time. Like, I don't know any other business where you're guaranteed an income for 75 years, right?
Yeah.
And so, just from that standpoint alone, I think you should look at it as a long-term business.
Yeah.
And so instead of focusing on how can I make the most money this month or this week or with my next launch, focus on what can I do today that's going to pay off a year from now, 5 years from now, 50 years from now, right? And that's how you create long-term success, by focusing on long-term value.
So what about, though, that in between? Because, I mean, most people get into this. It's not necessarily they're trying to get rich quick or anything. Most of the authors I deal with on a daily basis, either personally or through like Draft to Digital or, wherever else I may encounter them, their dream really is to be self-sufficient and be able to pay their bills from the work that they're creating and that sort of thing. And it's kind of rough to say, it's a long game and hang in there, when you're not able to pay your electric bill that month. So what about those folks? Like, what's the answer in the interim?
Life isn't easy.
That's
right?
true. Yeah,
life isn't fair. That's just how it is, right?
Yeah.
So whatever situations, problems, obstacles you have right now, there's thousands, tens of thousands of other authors who have come before you had those same obstacles or far worse and overcame them. Right. And so I think it's just kind of having that perspective and focusing on what you can control, because you can't control, how much money you owe this month, right? Like that's out of your control right now. There's nothing you can do to like make that problem just not be a problem, right? So you can solve that problem, but you can't change the fact that it exists. Right. And so rather than focusing on all the stuff you can't control, focus on what can you control. What can you do today to make a difference? What can you do today to increase your income? What can you do today to, get your next book published faster, right? Focus on the things you can control, because that's the only thing you can do, right? And what most of us do is we get so caught up in our emotions when we're not mindful, and we get so caught up, we focus on all the worries and anxieties and the bills we have, and oh my God, we got a bad review today, and oh, I tried this thing and it didn't work, and all this stuff that has nothing to do with anything that's actually going to make you successful, right? Because you're not focusing on what you can do. So rather than focusing on all that stuff and all that negativity and all those thoughts and emotions and so forth, go through that mindfulness training and then just remind yourself every single day to focus on what you can control, focus on what you can do to move in the right direction. And that's all you can do, right? I mean, that's the only logical course of action in life, right? If you think about it, like there's no other way, right? You can't go from zero to billionaire overnight.
Yeah.
But any of you listening could be a billionaire in your lifetime if you're willing to do the work. And so you don't know if you're going to get there or not, and maybe that's not even your goal. It doesn't have to be, right? But what you know is that if you keep making progress every day, and every single day you focus on what you can do to improve, what you can do to get better, what you can do to add value, that's how you get better at life. Right? That's how you kind of level up, so to speak. Right? And so it doesn't matter where you're at now. Like, everyone started at zero. J.K. Rowling started at zero. Hugh Howey started at zero. I started at zero. Right? Everyone starts at zero. So even if you're at zero now, even if you're at negative, you're in debt, doesn't matter. Right? It's all about what can you do today to improve and move forward and get in the right direction and make progress. Right.
Yeah. I love that whole concept of iterative progress as you go. It's just and it's tough to look at someone and say it's all about working for right now. Do the thing you can do. Take care of the problem you can solve. It's tough to say that to someone, but it's absolute truth. Like, that's true for writing, but it's also true for everything else in life. So,
absolutely. If you like Kevin, like let's say you were hired to coach someone, right? And you're hired to coach this new author, and they need some help, and so you show up at their house, Kevin, and their house is a mess. Right. There's dirt everywhere. There's dishes in the sink. Like, everything's terrible. Their desk is just covered with all this stuff. Like, is the first thing you're gonna do, honestly, if you're acting in their best interests, right, and really wanted the best for this person, wanted to give them the best possible advice to improve their life, would the first thing you do when you see their house in such a state of disarray be to say, okay, now we're going to focus on writing your book, or now we're going to focus on marketing, right? No, you'd be like, if you were honestly interested in their real success in life and real happiness for them in life, you'd be like, hey, we need to clean up this house.
Yeah.
Right?
Here's what came to mind when I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, like, it's, sometimes, like, we get so caught up in this idea of what success means that we forget the little stuff, and the little stuff makes all the difference. Right. And so, if you have a dirty house or a dirty office, or some, like, I know a lot of authors, like, you look at their home screen on the computer and there's like 1,000 files there. They have no organization whatsoever. And these are things that it's not immediately going to hurt you. But you look at the results of that over months and years. I know of authors who have accidentally deleted their entire books, right?
Right.
They switched to a new computer and they lost everything, right? That's the kind of mistake that it didn't happen overnight, right? There was one instance where they switched computers or their hard drive crashed or whatever, right? And you could say, oh, that was the cause of the failure, but that wasn't.
Right.
The cause of that mistake was neglect over a long period of time.
Right.
And so what I would say is don't neglect to do the things that you can do to improve your life, because that's how you become successful.
Yeah.
It really is that simple. It's not rocket science, but
Yeah.
it's not easy.
Right.
Right.
No,
It's simple, but it's not easy. It
it's
takes
that whole
constant, everyday commitment.
Right. It's that whole first things first principle, right? From I think it's 7 Habits. That
Yeah,
idea
absolutely.
that put first things first. Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, so I don't want us to run out of time before we talk about this, because I wanted to talk about ebookpublishingschool.com. Why don't you give us a little breakdown of what the scenario is there?
Yeah, definitely. So, when I published my first book, before that I had tried to traditionally publish for 6 years, and it just, it was miserable. I couldn't get a book deal. And so I finally figured out that I could self-publish my book on Amazon, and I found out how to do that. And, I went from $0 to $12,000+ a month in royalties on Kindle in that first year. And so I just wanted to share what I learned with other people. And so that's why I created eBook Publishing School, was just to walk people through the process of how I published my first book and how you can too.
Right.
And how to actually launch it and promote it successfully. And so I created this free video training course. I created like 4 years ago at ebookpublishingschool.com. And since then I've updated it several times. So like the most recent version, we just updated it in 2016. So it's everything's up to date. It's great. And we've had over 25,000 people go through that training. So yeah, if you haven't published your book yet, or maybe you have and you just haven't had the success you want, it's a great free resource for every author out there to learn, how to format your book for Kindle, how to publish it on Amazon, how to launch it like a pro.
So why free? Sounds like the kind of thing you could charge quite a bit of money for. So
yeah, when I created it, there were people charging thousands of dollars for the exact same information.
Yeah.
Or even I thought they were actually even poorer information, because mine's all straight to the point. Like I don't waste time with stories and examples. And here's 25 of my students that have done this. Like I just want to get straight to the point. Like here's what to do. You can do it. It's up to you. That's my philosophy on it. So why free is just I thought it made sense. I just wanted to help people, because I think authors make the world better. Authors make the world a much better place. Like we leave a legacy behind with our work. You can look at books now that are hundreds of years old, thousands of years old. I mean, people are still reading like Socrates and Plato and writers from thousands and thousands of years ago. Right? That's cool. And it's not just cool because, wow, someone lived 2,000 years ago and we still remember them. Like not in an egotistical kind of way.
Right.
But it's cool because these people who lived thousands of years ago, their ideas are still influencing us. They're still educating us. They're still helping us live better lives.
Right.
And I think that's the point of being an author, is to educate and teach people. Even if you write fiction.
Right.
You're educating people.
Yeah.
Right. And there's actually been studies on this that are so cool, Kevin, on people who read fiction actually handle their emotions better and handle social situations better, because they can imagine themselves in the situations that they're reading about in the book.
Right.
And they can learn about human behavior and how to relate to people better by what they're reading.
Right.
Which I think is so fascinating, right? And so this is the legacy that you leave as an author, and I just wanted to help more people, do that, because there's so many authors, like 99.9% of authors will never get a traditional book deal.
Yeah.
They're just, it's not going to happen. And it's getting less and less likely every day as the industry is shifting, right? And so if people don't learn how to self-publish, we have all these books sitting on computers, sitting, in a dresser somewhere, that's never going to get published.
Yeah.
Right. And, I have a client, she's in her late 70s now, and she had a book that was, manuscript sitting on her, in a file for 40 years before we finally published it. Wow. And it became a bestseller, like in the first month.
Wow.
Right. So tens of thousands of copies.
And that's hard, because there's one part of your brain that says, why didn't I do this sooner? And then there's another part that realizes that the timing may not have been right. So that's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go back and change time, right? So the only thing you can focus on, again, is like, what can you control right now? Can you get it published now? Who cares if it's 40 years old?
Exactly.
It's about, what are you going to do now with your life?
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome, man. I'm so glad that you reached out. I'm glad we got a chance to talk. I cannot recommend your stuff higher to most people. You're one of the you're one of the authors I recommend frequently if I do any coaching. I don't do so much anymore, but if I do coach, I always recommend your work. So thanks for being so generous with what you're learning and what you're doing out there. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate you and all the great work you're doing as well.
Thanks, man. All right. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I do really appreciate you being on the show. Everyone out there, I want you to make sure you definitely go check out ebookpublishingschool.com and the rest of Tom's work you can find on Amazon. You'll find links to all this stuff in the show notes, of course. Tom, thanks so much for being on. I'm going to let you get back to your regularly scheduled life. And everyone else out there, you hang on. We're going to talk a little bit more after this interview. So thanks, Tom.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin.
All right. That was my interview with Tom Corson-Knowles. And, I've always admired people who can pull off the hyphenate name. Actually, I don't know. I wish I had thought to ask him about that on the show. Now I have to email him and ask him why he's in hyphenate. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's fun, actually. So if you did enjoy that, I hope you will help me out with a little something. Here's a favor you can do for me, the Word Slinger, and for Tom Corson-Knowles, and for all of my other guests, actually. This would be very, very helpful, and we would all be very grateful for it. If you will go onto iTunes, and if you will find the show, all you got to do is type Word Slinger Podcast, and it will come up. Go into the show on iTunes, and do a rate and review the show. Now, I stumbled over that a little, so let me just make this clear. I want you to rate and review the Word Slinger Podcast on iTunes. It helps a lot. Here's what it does. If I get enough 5-star reviews, for example, and enough well-worded, pleasant reviews, they don't even have to be all that well-worded, but if I get pleasant, nice reviews, people discover the show. And the point of the show is to help people, okay? So I help my guests. That's one group of people I help. I help them by giving them a little exposure, helping them to have a platform to get their ideas out in the world, to tell their story. But I also help the listeners, and that's, to me, everyone's important, but the emphasis for me is you. And when I get these people on air, I learn from them, which is, part of the point. I help me, but it's more important to me that you learn from them. You get some inspiration out of what you're listening to, that you are exposed to something new that can change your life. Because that's what we're in the business of, right? Changing each other's lives, right? I recently heard an interview with Will Smith. And if you have not heard Will Smith in an interview, I urge you, go on YouTube, type Will Smith interview, and just listen to this guy. Because this is a guy who has built his life. Like, he's constructed his life. He's a craftsman of his own life. And it's amazing how powerful his vision actually is. Now, whether you like Will Smith or not, I understand some people don't. I get it. Actually, I don't get it. He seems like a great guy. I rarely hear anything truly negative about him, but he seems like a very positive influence. And there's a philosophy I've adopted that you don't have to like the person in order to gain wisdom from their message. I have this overriding philosophy about the Holy Spirit, and I'm a Christian, so maybe I should have said that, trigger warning or something, I don't know, but I'm a Christian. I have this overriding philosophy that the wisdom of God, which is sometimes called the Holy Spirit, is present in all the universe, okay? So everything that you encounter presents an opportunity for you to learn some sort of wisdom. That's the way I believe. And I have some scriptural basis for that. If anybody's ever interested, I'd be happy to talk about it. But more than that, let's get outside of the religious aspect of it, because I do know how that can bother some people. But the point here is everything has something to teach you. I had an experience last night where I went to get some dinner for me and my wife, and it was a little late. She was sick all day. Things were a little hectic. We didn't get a chance to make dinner. And so I went out to get dinner for us. And I pull into a place, and I was having some trouble finding the exact restaurant we were after, so I decided we would compromise. And I get out, and I realize, I'm in the wrong parking lot. And so I go to get back in my car, and the engine won't start. It tries to turn over, but it doesn't turn over. And I take a look at the battery, and the positive terminal in the battery has a lot of corrosion. And my best guess, and a little bit of research, is that the battery has died, is close to death. It's not powerful enough to turn over the engine, at the very least. And my wife verified this by telling me that she had, in fact, been told this by the service people at Toyota a week or two ago, that it was going to go bad. So it could have been replaced in the meantime. So at any rate, I went on a little adventure. I got a buddy of mine to come by and give me a jump start. I drove to Walmart, which is the closest place I could get a battery at that time of night. I go in, I trade it took some effort to get the battery out. There weren't the proper tools in the car, something I got to remedy. But I get the battery. I'm filthy. I'm hungry. I'm tired. I get a shopping cart. I wheel the battery into the automotive department. Once in there, I'm able to pick out the battery right away. I was able to find a replacement right away. Didn't cost a fortune. Was happy about that. And loaded it up and brought it back out. Now, here's where things got fun. I had inadvertently locked the vehicle before I closed the hood. And with no battery in the vehicle, there was no way to open the door. I didn't have a key. All I had was a key fob. So that was a panic moment, but I calmed myself. I went back into the store, went back to Automotive, asked if they knew anyone who had a Slim Jim, and there just happened to be a customer there who said that he had one. And he was gracious enough to help me out. Now, he wanted money for it, which is fine. I agreed. I said I would pay him $40 if he got my door open. And we go and we get the Slim Jim from his vehicle, and we go back to my vehicle. I'm pushing the cart with the battery in it. We get to the car, and he starts working on the car door, and he cannot get it open. And I'm just praying, just let us luck out, get the door open. And at that time, my wife calls me and says she looked online and discovered, unbeknownst to me, that there is a spare key hidden in the key fob of the remote, the key fob, the little button. Okay. So all this time I had a key, is what I'm saying. So I told the guy, okay, look, I got a key. I'm sorry, I just found out. But check it out. I opened the door. I said, there you go. I really appreciate you helping me out. And he nods, and he's kind of rolling his eyes about it, and he just sort of looks, resolved. And I say, I want you to have the $40. And I think that surprised him because he didn't get it open, But I told him, I said, look, you agreed to help me, and I agreed to pay you for your help. Even though we found another way in, I still got in, and you were a great help to me. God bless you for your help. And I give him the $40, and I shake his hand. Now, he's kind of a mumbly sort. He's not very articulate, but there was a vibe, right? So he dug that. And then he left. And I actually went back into Walmart to grab something to eat so that I wasn't starving when I got home. Remember, I was supposed to be bringing home dinner, and now I'd been at this for about 3 hours now. So there you go. So here's the deal. This is the point. Every scenario, every situation we encounter in life is an opportunity to learn wisdom. Okay? To see wisdom in action. There were a couple of moments in there when I was not my best. Like I cursed and got mad and, wanted to react, one way. And thankfully, because of everything I'm encountering, all the study I'm doing, all the reading, the Motivation Manifesto and the other books and videos and all this positive stuff that I'm bringing into my life every day. Because of that, I'm slowly rewiring my brain so that I react in a better way. And because of that, I was able to see some of the wisdom of everything that happened there. I was able to see the wisdom of being thinking, in the present tense, being prepared, studying all your resources to make sure you're not missing something, kindness towards strangers, and, all the great wisdom that I could glean from that experience. Patience, not panicking, trusting, in my case, trusting that God would take care of me. But, even if that trust is just that things are going to work out, it's not misplaced. So I'd say that that's a long story. I hope it was entertaining, but I also hope that somehow it's inspiring, because that's what this show really is all about. It's what my whole life is about. Recently, and I'll wrap up right after this, I promise. If you're hanging on, thanks a lot. But recently I came to the decision that one of my missions in life is to help, in particular, to help indie authors. I'll help anybody who asks me if I can, and I usually can. So if you are in need of something, I may not always be able to do exactly what you want or what you need, but somehow, some way, I'm sure I can help out if you ask. But right now, one of the conclusions I came to is that there's a part of my life that needs a little more exercise, needs a little more growth, but I'm committing myself to the idea of helping indie authors to be successful, because I've learned a lot, and I'm in a position where I can do that, and my role at Draft Digital is in line with that. So if you happen to be an independent publisher, an author, if you are interested in being an author and you just don't know where to start and you don't know what to do, reach out to me. Now I'm thinking about creating a service around this. And I have not decided what I'll charge for. I used to do author coaching, and I think I was going about it all wrong. I had a lot of great clients, but it never really took off. But I think maybe the timing was wrong. Maybe I tried to push things too fast, too far. Something along those lines. But I don't know. Because I was in your shoes, we'll say. I mean, you may be more advanced than me, actually. But if you're just starting out, there was a point in which I was in your shoes. And I didn't find the kind of help I was looking for very easily. So I want to make it easier. I want to make it easier to find that help. And if it comes to a point where I decide I'm going to charge for services, and I will, I'm going to do that because, that's a business. There's ways to work out things to fit a budget, so we'll figure it out. But I also will give plenty of advice for free. So I say all that to say this: the Word Slinger podcast is still going to be what it is. It's always going to be what it is. It's about story. It's about the story of these individual lives that I encounter and how they can shape and change the world with their story. And it's about you. In the end, it's about me and you. It's about how we live and structure our lives. And I just want to be a more active part in all of that. So that's where I'm going with my personal career. It's 2017, everyone's got to have their resolutions. I guess this is something of a resolution that I'm committing to this idea, to build products and services and things that can help people get into this business and succeed in this business. That's where I'm at. So don't know what that'll look like entirely yet, but I've got a little roadmap I started, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm still going to write fiction. I still love fiction. That's what got me here. And then you always dance with the one who brung you. But there's this other part of me that just is dying to get out there. It's dying to grow, living to grow. All right. Anyway, now we're in the rambling portion of the program, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. Again, I would really appreciate it if you are interested at all in making a comment, asking me a question, getting in touch with somebody who is a guest on the show, whatever. I can't always guarantee that part. Sometimes privacy, but I will definitely pass questions along for sure. If you have a question, call me at 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. And you can also reach out to me on the web. If you go to wordslingerpodcast.com, you can click on the contact button up in the top and send me an email, of course. You can also leave me a voicemail from that page. There is a little orange tab floats right on the right-hand side of the page where you can leave me a voicemail on any topic you wish. And that's pretty much it. If you'd like to support the show, I appreciate going to iTunes and leaving me reviews and rate the show 4 and 5 stars. That'd be awesome. You can also support the show financially. Still got the goals kicking around out there, and I think we're every day we get a little closer to this sort of thing. But if you want to support the show financially, just click on the Patreon logo on wordslingerpodcast.com. You'll find some slightly outdated stuff that I need to fix, but time willing, I'll get around to it. But you can pledge any amount you like. I've got some fantastic patrons on there who are I just cannot tell you how much I love and appreciate what you've done for me and for the show. So thank you for being a part of the Wordslinger podcast. I'm looking forward to 2017 and everything that we're going to accomplish and build together. We're just going to be amazing. I know that. So go out there. God bless you. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next time.
Wordslinger.